And really what this program is designed to do is to help people with early childhood trauma. And as part of this step 1 process, which is literally a whiteboard session where we're going to extract data that sometimes we see as really random, but it's data that we experience between the ages of 0 and 10 that's super relevant to us. And we're going to go ahead and extract that and see how we can take that data and understand it differently. How can we take some of these different pain points and really start to relate them back to what was the underlying purpose or intention behind those particular data points? And as part of this whiteboard session, there's a theory component. So this is where you get to see my artistic capabilities at its best or worst. So I'm going to be asking you a series of questions to really help you to map out aspects of your life on this whiteboard. And we're going to start with the theory, as I mentioned to you. The theory is all about these 12 steps where we help you to move from this place that you live where you have this belief system about yourself, you have this role as to who you think you need to fill. And what we do is we move you along this journey so that you can really discover who you are always meant to be. You know, how you can really identify what your true identity really is outside of what you think it is. And so that's really what we're getting to today. And so what we have is a great way to describe this is a moon. And when we think of a moon, we know that a moon really does impact our moods. For women, it impacts our menstrual cycles. And when we look at a moon, we've got this light side of the moon and we've got this dark side of the moon, okay? And on the dark side of the moon, we have what is called our ego. And on the light side of the moon, we have is what's called our soul. So on the dark side is where we seek external validation. And on the light side, that's where we can tune into ourselves and really move internally, knowing our self-worth and what it is that we have to offer. So we've got this internal way of processing our experiences. Then we also have on the dark side of the moon, that's where fear exists. This is where we make decisions when we're in fear. The opposite then would be love. Okay. And what I want you to start to notice is I want you to start to notice that for everything that happens on one side of the moon, the exact opposite happens on the other side of the moon. Like a battery, negative and positive. Okay. And this is important because when you were born with an expectation to be loved, okay, an expectation to be loved, an expectation to have a sense of belonging. I mean, you're here as you are in this universe. Your entire being is perfectly perfect as you know it to be. And because of that, you've got this GPS. That is basically this frequency that leads you to this side of the moon. But what happens is somewhere from birth to about 10 years old, something happens in our life where our identity, our sense of self-worth is questioned. We end up with this big pain, if you will. Okay, and I'm just putting a big P there. So we have this big pain. And what's important to understand is the big pain could be big, small, and anything in between. And even though we may have pains that happen after the age of 10, most of the time, the pains that we experience after the age of 10 are already based on a role that we're playing. They're already based on this concept of, I am worthy if I control pain, avoid pain, or cause pain onto myself so that you feel better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, in doing this, what ends up happening is when we have this break in spirit, we really start to question our self-worth. And so we hear this voice inside of our head that basically tells us that we're not worthy in whatever capacity. We're born thinking we should be here. Something happens to us, and all of a sudden we start looking to this side because who we are as individuals isn't enough. So we start to think, well, we're not worthy. Well, in that case, then we end up having to create this relationship with other people. And that creates this codependency. And that's our codependency. I didn't spell it properly, but anyway, codependency triangle or drama triangle, as we know, where we have the different roles that we can play. Depending on the roles that are already filled in your family dynamic already, there is the role of perpetrator, there is the role of martyr, and then there's the role of victim. Okay? And we end up filling in that void for our family. Okay. And oftentimes it's very subconscious, but it's what ends up happening to us. And then, like I mentioned to you, because we had this frequency, because we had this GPS that initially we believed that we were deserving of everything fantastic and good and great and loving. And then because this break happens to us and it shifts our sense of self-worth, we actually change our GPS. But here's the thing about that. When we do that, then we start to attract what we think we deserve, right? There's the mic drop. So we don't think we're worthy because something's happened to suggest that we're not deserving of all of the love and the light in the world. We end up creating this role for ourselves because that's how we're going to be able to validate our sense of self-worth. Is we're going to start to rely on relationships with other people because clearly us ourselves are not enough. And that creates this reoccurrence every decade of kind of like the same experience, just with a different cast of characters, as my Janice likes to call it, my mentor. And so that's what happens whenever we live on this ego side. But here's the thing. We always still have that inner voice. This inner voice that has us feeling restless. And we start to notice that around the age of 20, you start to hear this voice talking to you. And most of the time we're looking to leave the house, we're looking for post-education or we're looking for a job, but we're looking to remove ourselves from that initial family dynamic. And then in our 30s, we start to want to attract a partner. We want to create a new family dynamic somehow. Okay. But in doing that, we realize that the relationships that we've created may not be the right relationships for us, or the way in which we trained people to treat us, we may have trained them the wrong way. We're starting to feel that it's not quite right. And in our 40s as well, that whisper is kind of loud. It's almost like a truck has run us over. Something has happened in our life where all of a sudden we're like, you know what? I am not happy with my life. Something has got to change. It almost feels like rock bottom. How old are you now, Jackie?
58.
Did you say 58?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You do not look 58, my friend. Okay.
I love you.
No, hey, you just took my breath away. Okay. Now here's the thing. With that voice, we recognize that there's this whole soul side to us. And we know this to be true because we're not satisfied with what it is that we have right now. And we kind of will say, I'm just being ungrateful. I should be grateful. I need to start to express more gratitude. But we know deep down inside of us that we're deserving of more, that we're meant for more, that there's just something out there. It's like this itch that we cannot scratch, and it will not go away. And that's because everything that's happened here, particularly 0 to 10, all of those experiences can also happen here. Okay, what we need to do is we need to understand the relevance of those experiences that caused us our pain so that we can turn it into purpose and actually start to walk on this side of the moon. Okay, and that is doable. And when we start to become really curious and we start to move forward to this side of our life, we end up being empowered. We end up with this deep recognition that we are in fact worthy. We know this to be true. We understand that we have these beliefs that no longer serve us. And now that we're walking on this side of the moon, we can understand those beliefs a bit better and we can let them go, recognizing then that we are in fact worthy. As a result of starting to unravel that, what also happens is we create what's called our golden triangle, which is what we're going to be learning about today. And essentially what happens is we start to relate those experiences here, and we take specific information that we'll learn today, and we start to relate that to what is it that I'm supposed to learn from this? And what are my takeaways that's going to allow me to flourish, allow me to continue to grow? What is the purpose of these lessons that I have learned or that I'm supposed to continue to learn from these experiences? And you're going to get that information from the people whom you created this codependent triangle with, because you were born. You didn't like put your hand up and say, pick me, put me in the world. You were chosen. And the experiences that you had up to the age of 10 are now experiences that you can now leverage and do something with. And that's what we do with our golden triangle. And then the third thing, when we start walking on the soul side of the moon, is we get to change our EKG. We change that frequency because we start to live in who we were truly meant to be. And we understand the secret. We understand that we can manifest what it is that we want, but we do that through action. We do that through consistency. And that only happens when we truly know deep down inside that we are worthy and what we're meant to do. It has to come from inside of us. It can't just be this mantra that we continue to tell ourselves, today I'm going to wake up happy. Today I'm going to be grateful for X, Y, and Z. I'm going to go to bed and think about the 5 things that I'm grateful for. While those are fantastic, we have to understand at the root of who we are as these little tiny people that we are worthy, and then move from that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any questions about this at all?
No, that's really clear. Yeah.
So these are the 3 phases. Sorry, this is phase 1, this is phase 2, and this is phase 3 of the 12 steps. And in each of those phases, there are 4 steps. So that is the whole journey. And where did I put here we go. And we're going to be working through getting to that golden triangle so you have a better understanding as to those particular pain points that you remember at the age of 10. But here's the thing is, we're going to be diving into some data that, like, the day that you were born, the relevance behind that, your full name, the relevance behind that, information about your parents and their birth order. So it's a whole bunch of information that you and I are now going to pull together. Okay.
I
Cool.
do have a question for you, Christy.
Yes, go ahead.
So if you're saying what happens if your role is never fulfilled because the people have either passed away or you haven't completed your role?
Yeah, so that's a great question. With the codependent triangle, we have the capability to pull ourselves out of martyr, perpetrator, or victim and move ourselves into this place where we're no longer dependent on external validation to feel a sense of self-worth. If you've got somebody who's passed away, there's an opportunity to play detective and ask questions with some of the people whom you feel safe and comfortable speaking to about some of their particular passions. And it's a great question that you've asked, Liz, because you're going to hear some of that from Jackie. So while I'm asking these particular questions to Jackie, I want you to think about the similar types of questions for yourself, and then how you can extract information from people who are no longer in your life. Does that help you?
That's a thumbs up.
Oh, okay. I can't see her. Sorry. That's amazing. Okay, so good. Thank you for babysitting. I appreciate it. Okay, so Jackie, I need your full name.
Jacqueline, Jacqueline.
And your middle name, do you have one?
Yeah, Vita Marie. So it's V as in Victor, E-T-A, Marie, M-A-R-I-E.
And your last name?
Leduc, L-E-D-U-C.
Okay. And were you named after anybody?
Yep, I'm named after my aunt that died before I would have ever met her. She died in childbirth.
Okay. And she died, whose side of the family was she on?
My dad.
Okay. And it was your first name or your middle name?
Middle.
Middle name. Was your dad close to his sister?
I'm gonna 50. I'm not sure. There's quite an age difference. She's born in 1919 and he was born in 1927.
Okay.
He was the fourth kid. Yeah.
Okay.
Not sure they were close because yeah, she had probably moved out and had a baby before.
Did he ever tell you why he named you after his sister?
No, I never got to that. I just figured I was named because, she had died and I was the first daughter, so the first chance to be able to be named after her.
Okay. Carrying the name forward.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
And I'm surprised because his mom also died 6 months after she died.
Okay.
And they didn't use her name. It's maybe because my mom didn't like her name.
There. Okay. Okay.
Vita Marie has the French Catholic name to it. So I think that's why.
And were you raised French Catholic?
Yeah.
So that was very prominent in your life?
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the date of your birth?
May 26, 1964.
Okay. And do you have any significant memories before the age of 10?
Oh, yeah, ton.
What's your top significant memory that you have?
God, there's a few. I wrote them all. Spent the morning doing it.
What was the youngest of the three, of your significant ones? Choose the one where you were the youngest.
I'm thinking of a negative or a positive.
I'm going to say negative.
Okay, my grandfather died when I was in grade 2.
Okay.
In 1972.
Okay.
My grandfather on my mom's side.
And how did that affect you?
Well, it was freaky because, I didn't get to know him much and I only know him sick. So I was probably, I was in grade 2. So I was 7 years old?
Mm-hmm.
So it was freaky to know that a man who was, I knew was somebody important, died of cancer, bone cancer. So such an important man being so frail.
Okay.
That was weird. And the fact that I remember that I was in grade 2 and I pretty much almost remember being in, my classroom and thinking of it.
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that it was 1972, like it's weird that I remember it that much.
Okay.
Trying to think of other people. I think that would be the first one.
And you were saying you were 7, not 8 years?
No, it's definitely 7.
Okay, thank you very much. And is that your first memory that you have before the age of 10?
No, I remember tons of stuff, but nothing that I can think of that was negative. I know that, oh, no, wait a second. Whoa, yeah, way before that.
Okay.
It's cute when you did the dentist thing with your ball. I went, oh, yeah, I have a dentist story, but it wasn't, I don't remember it as being traumatic. But I remember at the age of 5 being allowed to roam around anywhere in the village. I'd go to the pool and my mom would say, hey, you come home when the little needle is this way and the big needle's there, come home. We can go to the pool, the public pool, no problem. I'd roam around, and I remember having to go to the dentist and going there instead of my brother. And I remember sitting in the waiting room for what felt like hours. It was probably hours. I think they went to close up shop and they're like, oh, there's a kid in the room. They never called on me because they would look out in the room and expect a boy. And even though I did look like a little boy, they didn't call me out because I guess they didn't see my brother Richard. So they didn't call me out. So I was left alone in that space. So I was forgotten, or I was not seen. I was not seen.
Okay.
Yeah, other than that.
Okay, this is good.
Yeah.
And in terms of your parent, now we're going to come back to your siblings in just a moment, but in terms of your parents, can you give me your parents' full names?
Yes. So my dad is Timothy Ronald Leduc.
Okay.
And my mom is Marie-Suzanne Gertrude Hamel. And
Gertrude?
Gertrude, don't say Gertrude.
And did I spell that right? Gertrude?
Yeah, it's Gertrude, but she would go by Gertrude.
Yeah, so just the
Couldn't say.
pronunciation? Same
Yeah,
spell.
yeah.
Okay, and then her last name, her maiden last name?
Hamel, Hamel.
Okay. Now we're looking at your dad. When was he born?
He was born February 7, 1927.
1927, that's right. I have him here. Perfect.
Yeah,
And
and
he was the second born?
Fourth.
Okay. How many siblings?
He's the 4th out of 4.
Okay.
So he had 3 older sisters.
Okay. And in terms of the sister that was just above him, what was the difference in ages?
She was born in 1922, so 5 years.
So he really was kind of the baby of the family, eh?
Oh, he was the baby, spoiled, big time. When his mom died, his sisters took care of him, and when he got married, then it was with mom that my mom that took care of him. Like,
Okay.
he was a baby.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
Okay. And then in terms of the cultural story, is it all French Catholic here too?
Nope, English Catholic.
So Timothy, English Catholic?
Yep. Timothy Ronald. I know that Leduc sounds French, but they were all Anglos.
Okay. So then the French Catholic ended up being because of your mom's side of the family?
My mom, yeah. My mom was French and my dad was English. International language of love. They had sex, made babies, right?
Fair. Okay, thank you. That's awesome. Is your dad still alive?
No.
Okay, when did he pass away?
October 12th, 1994.
And how old were you when he died?
30.
Okay. And then did your parents stay married the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of passions, did your dad have any particular passions?
Yeah, he was a leader in the community. He would help in the church events. He was a soccer coach. He was a Boy Scout leader.
And he did that while you were growing up?
Yep.
What did he do for work?
He was metallurgical engineer. He worked for a company called Stelco.
Okay.
So yeah, metals. He was an
Okay.
engineer, tested different metals to see if buildings were solid, or that's what I understood of it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Those seem very different from each other, right? What he would do for work versus what he liked to do for his passions.
Yeah.
What was
Yeah.
the reason behind him choosing that job?
I have no idea.
Interesting. Okay. And what was his relationship like with his siblings?
I'm not quite sure. I know that we as a family hung out with friends of the family more than we did with family. I know that my cousins, the two sisters, my cousins know each other a little bit more because actually they're a lot older than me.
Okay.
They know each other more, and they used to go to my grandfather's place all the time, and we never did. I think we went once that I remember.
Okay.
Right. And
what was his relationship like with his parents then?
I don't know.
Okay.
So
He never
like I
talked
said,
much about
his
them?
mom died when he was 21.
Okay.
Immediately after her daughter died in childbirth.
Right.
And I think he got along well with his dad,
Okay.
but we never, we were so freaking young. We never really saw our grandparents that much.
Okay.
Like once a year, twice a year, maybe. And yet we were still, fairly close by.
Okay.
So, I don't know. So my parents hung out with their friends and kids. Like the children of their friends were closer to us than we knew them more than our cousins.
Okay. Okay. And that's primarily on your dad's side? Is the same thing, same story on your mom's side?
On my mom's side, I met my cousins from my eldest uncle for the first time 5 years ago.
Okay.
And they're like 15 years older than me. I think we met them once when I was 6 years old.
Okay.
So there was such a difference in age on my mom's side of the family. They were 8 of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Where
Where did she fit in the birth order?
She's 6th out of 8.
Okay. Okay. When was she born?
She was born September 1st, 1929.
And is she still alive today?
No, she died February 25th, 1980.
How old were you then?
15.
So you've got lots of deaths happening in the family, eh?
Yeah. And it's generational too. You see it at generations.
Okay. How was her relation? So how many siblings? Sorry, there's 8 brothers and sisters. What does that look like?
So it ended up being girl, boy, girl, 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 and then 2 boys. So they really wanted to have boys and got my mom, and so they kept going.
Okay. Right. What was your mom's relationship like with the sibling above her, born before her?
So they would have been a year apart.
Okay.
A little over than a year apart. I think they were fairly close.
Okay.
but I remember, vaguely remember hearing that she was pretty close with her two younger brothers.
So your mom had more of a relationship with the younger brothers?
I think so. I think so. I'm gonna have to talk with my aunts that are actually still alive
Yeah.
about relationships.
Yeah.
But I just remember a long time ago talking with one, and I remember she said, yeah, they hung out a lot.
And what's the age difference between your mom and the first brother?
The younger brother.
Second youngest.
Okay, so Mark would have been 1931, so 29, 30, 32 years apart.
And then
And
the
then
youngest?
7 years.
7 years for the youngest?
No, actually, 9 years. He was born in 1938, so 9 years difference.
Okay.
So yeah, so it goes Gertrude, Mark, and Eve. So Mark in 1931 and her were probably the closest. And Therese also. So
Okay.
yeah, there's a lot of difference in age.
And then the daughter, the sister, that is the third sister in, what was
2 years.
the age?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. And was she close to her two brothers that were the oldest?
There was only one brother older.
Well, that's a girl. Oh, sorry, girl, brother. Got it.
Yeah, girl, boy, girl, girl, girl.
What was
girl.
her relationship with the first sibling born?
You know what? I have the impression that they weren't very close.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember asking the eldest son, who was born in 1923,
Yeah.
who communicated with me a lot more than the others.
Okay.
He said, yeah, we don't know each other. We
And
don't,
is
we
that
don't,
age?
it's like we don't connect much.
Okay.
We don't, check in on each other. I don't think they had a strong relationship.
That seems to be pretty prevalent in both sides of the family, in terms of that connection with the siblings.
Yeah, although I think that's my dad's side of the family, they were a little tighter.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know. You know what? I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Because yeah, we never, we kind of lost touch when my mom died. Nobody was checking in on us.
Mm-hmm.
And time just, they have their own kids to take care of. Time went by fast. I know my aunt, my godmother, was chatting with her the other day, and she says, I'm sorry, we never touched base with you guys. We feel really bad about it, but she had 4 sons to take care of. The life got, out of control for them. And yeah, I think it was taboo to talk about anything death-wise or reconnect. It was really weird.
And in terms of your mom then and her relationships growing up, how would she have been described by her siblings?
Well, her sister, I remember asking Yolande, so that would have been the number 1, 2, 3, 4th child.
The one that's 1 year different?
2 years difference with her.
Okay.
2 years different. I remember her saying, she was shy. She liked to giggle. She liked to ride horses. She was playful.
What else? Oh, I think you're frozen.
I am.
Oh, you're back. No, sorry, you were just.
No, I was in deep thought. Okay.
So playful, shy, likes to ride horses. Anything else about her that were her passions when she was little?
I don't know about little, but she was a concert pianist. She played beautiful. She played on the radio. Very talented that way.
Wow. And did she work at all?
No, she did not work outside the home. There was 4 of us to deal with, and it was enough.
Yeah.
She did work before having kids. She
Okay.
did work for a bank.
Okay. So what did she do?
Not quite sure.
Okay.
Just know she worked at a bank.
Okay. And her working at the bank, is that something that you saw as being consistent with her type of personality? Or like, again, it seems pretty different with your dad being an engineer and then really liking being involved in the community, and then your mom being really playful and being really artistic, but then essentially working at a bank.
My mom was very meticulous. If you look at like different personality profiling,
Yeah.
she would have been, what would it be called? The C personality, not
Okay.
complex, complicated, critical, very demanding, very perfectionist.
Okay.
Things have to be done a certain way.
Okay. Makes sense for if you're going to be a concert pianist, right?
There's perfection.
That translates.
Yeah.
Okay. And in terms of your relationship between your mom and dad, how would you describe that?
Between them,
Mm-hmm.
they loved each other. Like they were soulmates. My dad, when my mom died,
Mm-hmm.
we basically described him as he died at the same time, but his body took 15 years to figure it out.
Okay.
Like he turned gray as soon as she died, and he was only 52 years old, but totally gave up on life. So yeah, they did everything together.
Okay. Okay. And when you're talking about doing everything together, how did he help your mom cope with life?
I don't know if he helped her cope, but they just worked well together. Like there was never any fighting in the house. It was always like, yeah, it was just smooth. Everything was smooth. Yeah, I mean, she took care of the household. She was a stay-at-home mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
He went to work. He did what he brought the bacon home kind of thing.
Okay.
They did activities together, like, they went skiing together, they would go curling together, they'd go out, and like I said, they hung out with particular friends, and there was a good social group, and they were always together. Had a lot of cocktail parties. He came home after work and she always had a drink for him ready, and supper was ready. So
she took care of him from, like, she babied him, so to speak, like she really spoiled him in that way.
Well, yeah, and of course, when she wasn't around, he was completely lost. So he ended up, so used to having alcohol so much in your life, and then when everything went to shit, and you've got 4, I'm gonna say, I know you're recording, but asshole teenagers, young teenagers, to try and deal with, and never having to be a stay-home dad, or a dad that has to deal with that. It was too much. He didn't know how.
And when he did all of these things, helped in the church, so soccer and Boy Scouts, was that because all of you were participating in those activities?
My brothers were.
Okay.
It was mostly the boys. Although he did coach our softball team, but my sister and I told him to never do that again because we weren't allowed to swear when we played.
Fair.
So when
how old were you whenever that he started participating in some of those activities?
I've always known him to. He coached soccer, and I think I was definitely young, grade school. My brothers played soccer all the time.
Okay.
So 5, 6.
Okay.
Yeah.
And who do you think you're most like?
Definitely, I remember thinking of my dad in the way of, the leadership skills.
Okay.
And being good with being in front of public speaking. definitely my dad.
Mhm.
My mom, I tried so hard for decades to try and be like her, like the well-dressed, classy, and all that. And it's like, oh, I gotta give up on that because I'm not that. My sister is, not me. I think my mom, the side is the goofy side, the playful side. You know, she would, yeah, the fun, playful. Absolutely, my mom.
Okay. And now let's go ahead and jump into your siblings a little bit then. So where do you fit in the birth order?
3rd out of 4.
Okay, and then first one, what's the age gap between you and the first one?
I have to think. 4 years.
And brother or sister?
Brother.
Okay. And then the second?
3 years. Brother.
Okay. And then you. And then who's the fourth?
My baby sister.
Okay.
2 years difference.
What do you remember about her being born?
I don't remember her being born.
What do you remember about any time after that with your sister?
She was a pain in the ass.
Why?
She was so good at getting away with everything. She was the princess, the baby sister, right? I'll give you like one story. We were a little older by then, definitely, because my brothers could finally babysit.
Okay.
And my parents, you know, an hour before they went out, they went, oh, by the way, you know, Michael and Richard are going to be babysitting you guys tonight. And my sister just went, because she knew we were going to fucking kill her. We were going to kill her. Like,
Okay.
she was dead meat. And yeah, my brothers beat the crap out of her.
So did you find you got along better with your brothers?
My oldest brother, the 4 years difference, he was my, what would I call him? I looked up to him. He was my big brother. I idolized him. I did stuff because he did it. I started diving because my brother took a lesson. He never continued, but I continued.
Yeah.
He was really good at teaching skiing, and I was like, oh, you know, show me how. Like, I really looked up to him a lot.
Why do you think that is? What was his relationship like with your dad?
And they were cool. They were both 2 peas in the pod. They had the same personality. Neither of them, you knew whether they're happy or sad. Like, they were quiet. You know,
Okay.
they were like, you know, they just, it was just easy going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you really resonated with him, and he was really similar to your dad's characteristics?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what about the other brother?
Got along with him. Thought he was cool. You know, he was acrobatic. He did things. He was different, but he was ADHD probably. Like, nobody would have labeled him that, but and dyslexic. So he was high energy, into trouble, causing a lot of grief. I mean, we were on vacation, our only vacation we ever went on with our family. We got kicked out of the hotel because he was such a troublemaker. Like, he got into trouble a lot.
Okay. And then you were born, and how were you treated by both of your brothers?
I was, I don't remember hanging out with my eldest brother much, although we must have some way, somehow. But yeah, we hung out with so many kids on the street.
Yeah.
That we kind of mixed, and you know, they would be with the older guys and I'd be with the younger kids. You know, coexisted.
Okay.
Right.
So you more coexisted with your brothers. Do you find that that's what happened in those relationships with your parents and their siblings?
I don't know. I think they had such a huge age gap.
Yeah.
I think like the eldest, yeah, there was a 8-year gap.
Yeah.
My mom. So I don't know. And I don't know.
Where in this coexistence that you had, how were you treated?
Oh, my brothers were cool with me. There was never, like my big brother took care of me. I remember I had knee pain and he, got out of bed and wrapped my knee and helped me out. So there was kindness. There was no, yeah, it was just a cool relationship.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't hang out, but
Yeah. Because I mean, they had their own lives. They're 3 to 4 years old.
that's it.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah.
And then your relationship.
There was no, oh my God, I have to be with him.
Yeah. Okay. And your relationship with your parents, how did that work out for you?
My mom was my best friend.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay.
I think I liked hanging out with her a lot. Or I liked the fact that she was around. I loved having her around. Although we were so independent as kids, like I said, my mom would open the door in the morning and say, "See ya," and we'd hear the cowbell at night for supper. Come home. Like it was, we went. And when it was school days, we'd come home. My mom was there. We'd have lunch. We'd watch TV and go back. Right? It was simple.
So if you had a really close relationship with your mom, when your sister was born, what happened with that relationship with your mom? What did you feel?
I don't know. I don't know that I feel anything young, but all I remember is being jealous of my sister.
Okay.
For sure. I remember distinctly her first communion, which came after mine. I had a beautiful first communion. My mom knit my dress, crocheted my dress. Still have that dress. And yet when it was my sister's turn, 2 years later, oh my God, I look at the pictures and I'm like, you look like a real bitch, like in a bad mood. You are so not okay. I was sulking the whole time. I was not going to be happy that day.
Yeah. So it was really evident to you that she was being treated like a princess.
Oh, big time.
How old were you at your sister's communion?
I was just 2 years older than her. So probably first communion is what, second grade? So
we're looking at that 1972.
No, 72, I'm in second grade. So my sister, so it was 1974 because my sister's communion was 2 years after me. Yeah. She was 1974.
Okay. So she was 74.
No. So yeah. So I was 9 years old.
You were 9 years old. Is that the first time that you remember starting to experience that disdain for your sister, where you had already typecasted her as this princess, or the family had done that?
I'm pretty sure it was before that. Yeah. I don't right now.
Okay. So we'll say 9, but I think we're probably looking at, 1 or 2 years after her birth kind of makes a little bit, right, more sense to me, especially if you were really close with your mom and all of a sudden there's a disruption in that relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know about like best friends when I was teeny tiny.
Yeah.
But I just remember, counting on my mom a lot and loving to chat with her.
Sure. Well, she's the only female you have. And while you could look up to your older brothers and while they were going to be there to take care of you, everybody was super independent.
Oh, we were all so independent. Which was cool.
So, but if you needed love and support, she would be your go-to.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And then all of a sudden there's potentially there's this disruption with that. Okay.
Yeah.
So
my sister was a cutie. She was, I think she was And it's her temperament. She's more social, more of she had more, more friends, more outgoing, and look at me, look at me, look at me, which gets a lot of attention. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of cute stuff that she would do. And yeah, where I'm a tomboy and I'm like, okay, let's go play in the cow pasture. She's doing cutie things that made people laugh a whole lot more.
Okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of your mom being this meticulous perfectionist, how did that resonate with the relationship you had with your sister?
I think they were great. Yeah. It's hard to remember. Yeah.
What was it like? You guys would go to church?
Yep.
What was it like when you would go to church in terms of your mom getting your sister ready for church?
I don't recall it being a hassle. It was in our in our household, what my mom said went.
Okay.
And I remember actually we were not allowed to say she about my mom. So when we spoke of my mom, we could never say, she did this. It's like mom did this. Like it was very, very strict.
Yeah.
It was matter of fact that we'd go to church. We were, probably fidgety in the pews, and we just knew that after church, we can go and hang out in the community hall. Before church, we would steal the host and eat them, and after we'd steal all the sugar cubes and eat them and run around like idiots.
Who would initiate some of that?
Oh, probably me and my sister. Like
Okay.
we were I think the sugar cubes, my sister introduced me to that, but the stealing of the host, totally me.
Okay. 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 I'm getting it. Okay. When we look at your mom and her relationship with her parents, can you tell me just a little bit more about that?
I really don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there was kindness, there was caring.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother was adorable. But again, we never got stories yeah. So my mom got sick when I was 12, 13. And at that point, you're no longer asking stuff like that. And we're already into the teenage years of we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Right. So we missed out on the wiser years as you get older of, hey, I'd like to know this stuff.
Okay. Did she look after your the youngest at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to ask those things but even the sisters at this point would probably not remember that too.
Okay. I suspect there's a relationship in terms of when we look at your golden triangle around the age of 66 as it relates to that dynamic shift between you and your mom, and then with your sister being born, and this relationship with your mom really kind of having that martyr type of role. And I'm wondering if that has to do with relationship that she might have had with your younger brother, or where she would have fit in the family dynamic with her brothers and sisters.
I know that the uncle that's the youngest,
Yeah.
I'd always remember hearing, well, he could get away with murder compared to the other ones, right?
Yeah.
And he was a rebel. He drove a motorcycle, where it was like, whoa, that's not okay in their family, right?
Yeah.
The eldest son went to war. This other one was, got off easy.
Yeah. And then all the girls
got divorced. Oh my God, got divorced.
Mm-hmm. Were the roles of the girls a little bit closer in terms of what they had to do versus the boys could get away with a lot more?
The eldest daughter ended up never marrying because the expectation was that she would take care of the aging parents.
Okay.
right? That, and same as on my dad's side, the eldest surviving daughter, never married. And the expectation was that she would take care of her father, who was, getting older. And I remember when my dad died, I looked at him, I said, no fucking way. Don't count on it. It's
Yeah.
not happening.
Yeah.
I am not getting married and taking care of you.
Yeah.
So those were the expectations that, in that generation.
Yeah.
Like,
so like high expectations, so much so that people actually changed the trajectory of how they were going to live their life because they didn't want to ever fall into that. Like you cut out that generational expectation immediately.
oh yeah.
Very interesting. Okay. And in terms of passions that you have, what are things that when you were growing up that you really love to do? And again, we're looking at that 0 to 10 range.
Anything phys ed, anything activity, sports, just, riding my bike everywhere, going to play in the woods, going to the pool, gymnastics, skiing. Okay, skiing might have been a little, no, I started skiing when I was like 2 years old. So anything active, I was absolutely, like, if I look at the era now where people are going, well, I'm not sure if I'm male or female, I would have been the one exactly like that. I was a tomboy. That's what we called it.
Mm-hmm.
There was no, I knew I was a girl, but I wore all my brother's hand-me-downs. I did everything the boys did. I liked to play. Read a little bit. I remember always thinking, oh, I should do some crafts, but I'd look at it and go, oh, that's cute, but never get to it.
Okay.
I tried taking, piano lessons, I was good at it, but I couldn't sit still, right?
Yeah.
It was like, no, just let me go run, let me go do stuff.
So being free was really, like, you've said the word independent multiple times. Clearly that's a huge component for you, is you have to have that sense of independence. Your dad was dependent, right? He was the baby. Your mom more or less would have been like the martyr, that would have been the one that would have taken care of your dad. And for you, it was all about making sure that you had your own independence, you had your own freedoms, but you still had these relationships inside your family. So you looked to your brother because you felt like these were the types of activities that he was doing, and you then could go ahead and do them as well. Did you have to ask to participate in those, or were you given the same opportunity as your brother?
Given the same opportunity except soccer. It's really funny. I remember, I'm like, why is it that, Dad, you're coaching boys soccer and we can't participate? So we cut the oranges and bring them and watch you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we signed up for softball, and my sister and I played softball. The boys didn't play baseball.
Right.
There was, yeah. But anything I asked to be in, I could do. I did, the softball, I did brownies, I did ballet, I did, skiing, I did anything I wanted to, skating, swimming lessons, right? Diving, anything that I wanted to. I don't think my parents would have said no.
Right.
So there was never any, well, I can't say there was never, but I have to fit a female role. Not necessarily, although my dad, was mortified that I was not a young lady enough. I'm not, I didn't raise you to be, like you are.
That's interesting, because your sister certainly was a princess. I mean, you can't get more ladylike than a princess.
Yeah, she's princess, and she she's the typical Montreal woman. She dresses well. She looks put together, high heels all the time. My mom wore 4-inch heels because she was 5'0", right?
Okay.
And yeah, my sister dresses well, does the makeup all the time, her hair all the time. Like, she's just put together all the time. Whereas I'm like, I put lipstick on tonight.
No, yes, I get it. So some common themes here is really around like not being seen
Mhm.
for who you really are.
Yeah.
Not being recognized as being a female, but you being genuinely comfortable in your own skin to be able to be this tomboy version of who you are. You know, being female and playing sports and activities and, you know, playing outside, that those weren't female types of activities. Somehow it seemed more male oriented.
At the time.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I remember I helped, there was a farmer that would come around and sell fruits and vegetables off the back of his truck. And he was asking kids to help, and he, you know, pay 10 cents a pint or whatever that we would. And one day my mom goes, Jacqueline, time for supper. And he looks at me, goes, you're a girl.
Okay.
I never was allowed to work for him ever again. He
Oh.
said, oh yeah, yeah. I was not,
Oh.
he didn't let me work. He didn't want little girls working. So
How
that
old were you
was
then?
probably 7, 8.
So there's a lot of this identity stuff going on for you. Like, it really is very strong, but the identity piece for you really seems to be around like gender roles, what a gender role should look like.
See, I didn't have any questions. It was like,
Yeah.
this is life. This is what it is.
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, has to be for girl or boy. And I always loved the fact that I never saw sexism. I never saw, you know, I'd hear of people going, oh my God, there's, you know, you can't do this because you're a girl, or I never experienced that. I actually, the first time I experienced it was, I was a lifeguard at a pool, and the janitor's, you know, doing his thing. And he looks at me, he goes, so, you know, he says, I heard you're going to university. You're going to go to university. He goes, why waste your time? Because you're just going to make babies anyways, right? It was the first time that I went, people actually think like this. So I was never exposed to that. Freedom was a given. Being able to do you was a given without restrictions. There was that little eek of why soccer, like that was just like a little thing, but
many times you talk about this shadow part of your identity. Now, again, not sexuality.
Yeah.
Identity of being able to do the same things your brothers could do, which were very distinctly different from the princess, of the only other female role model that you had outside of your mom.
Yeah.
Your mom was very meticulous, very much a perfectionist. You were more of that tomboy personality. And your dad did have some sense of, you know, expectation of what ladylike behavior should be like.
Oh yeah, I remember showing a picture, kindergarten. No, it was first grade picture, class picture.
Yeah.
To my cousin, like I put it on Facebook, and she sent me a message right away after I wrote, oh, my dad must be rolling over in his grave, you know, or my parents, because I looked at the picture and my legs were like open like a guy. Like I was sitting like, and I'm like, here I am. And my cousin just laughed hysterically. She goes, oh my God, your parents must have been mortified that you weren't ladylike. So she knew it.
Yeah. I think this is where we come up with that purpose. You have this fierceness in you, this rebelliousness in you, where you want to live in your light of being able to be playful, being able to be athletic, being able to speak your truth. But all of your life, there's, at least in that child, like inner child version of you, there's still that, yeah, but you're not being, there's not enough finesse, you're not being ladylike enough. I think there's some learnings there that you get to offer the world because of that experience. There's a lot of people out there who have this sense of identity where, they are more that tomboy. And how can we make that okay? How can they express themselves through play, through, exercise, through, getting dirty in the woods, and that not be seen as, well, that's not feminine enough. That's not graceful.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
very interesting. So talk to me about passions then that you think that, I know you've got this teacher in you. I also know that you teach graceful modalities. Are there interests that you have that haven't pursued, that aren't graceful, that are all about being athletic, being dirty, being outdoors, being playful, that you would consider?
It's funny that you say the graceful, and I've had a few people say things. I'm like, geez, I should put what I used to do. The yoga and the graceful, that's only in the last 15, 18 years. Everything before that was kickboxing, high impact aerobics with, I make the football team, want to die doing the workouts, hard workouts, boot camps, and, the aquafit and the swim training was brutal. It was freaking tough. Yeah. So the gentler side appeared since the years of being so tired.
Mm-hmm.
And having health issues. So I went to the calmer, gentler, kinder side.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, it was always way more intense.
Where could you still be kind to your body, but still relay back to those passions of being the true version of you? This tomboy, where, we got to come up with a better word than tomboy, right? It's this beautiful, athletic, fierce, free woman. That's what it is.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if we look at that, and we look at the, after a while, those high intensity classes are not sustainable long term, but they're still sustainable solutions where you can get gritty and dirty and sweaty and playful, where you can teach others that it's okay for them to do that, where there isn't that sense of grace.
Yeah.
What might that look like for you?
Although a lot of the classes that I can say grace. Okay, the yoga is grace, but I'm like the word you say, rebellious. And most people that would take my class would go, whoa, you're different. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to follow those, classes that are generic. I'm different.
Yeah.
And I will make it more of I keep calling it, nobody latches onto it. I teach a mobility yoga. It's like, okay, it's not going to be as pretty. And as soon as I see you're not moving well, we're going to shift into something else. It's not as graceful. And the mobility tune-up stuff is like, okay, let's get down dirty and roll on the balls and try movements that let's get you moving better. So it's more disjointed. So I'm out of the ordinary most of the time. Anyway, so Yeah. There's
So how
been
can you
gentle and
continue?
graceful, but
How can you continue to springboard off of that, get down and dirty? I mean, that terminology or terminology similar to that, where you can really, really embrace that, through music, through writing, really attaching yourself more to that rebellious side of you where you speak your truth and you're perfectly fine with that.
yeah. And I am, and I do. And it's funny because most of the time, too often, I'm way ahead of my time.
Yeah, sure.
I remember, oh my God, when I was in Halifax. Okay, so 1994 to 2005. So about 1995, 96, let's just say, I had the rebellious thought of, hey, why are we doing hour classes? We should do, I'm telling the coordinator, we should do half-hour classes, 20-minute classes, blah, blah, blah. And of course, that was the HIT principle, Tabata, and you've got workouts that are 20 minutes. It took all this time for it to kind of catch up to, I knew that already, it was like, and I tried to get it going, but not everybody likes it. And everybody wants that, what's frilly and pretty.
So
right?
So this is it. You keep coming back to that, right? You keep coming back to that, the contrast between the frilly and pretty and the get down and gritty or get down and dirty. What are you not doing right now that you could be doing that would speak to this essence of being that getting down and dirty? And for you, I think it has that big learning component for others.
I don't know what I'm not doing, because I'm doing. I've pulled back from stuff because of COVID and burnout and all the stuff I went through. I'm still not ready to go back into a whole lot more because I know I have health issues that have to be addressed. But yeah, the comeback will be again, hey, this is, I don't know.
And again, to me, it's just something that has been missing for you. It's not so much that you have to go back and do something like you were doing before. It's because we can't do that, right? When we're shifting identity, it's really about doing something differently in a way we've never done it before. But the gap for you that you've kind of been touching on through all of your years has always been, I am different and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
I do it differently.
And it bothers me when I get sideswiped that it's not okay. It is just, it floors me. Or just things like, my parents gave us so much independence, but then when there was a restriction put on us, I'm like, where's that coming from? You don't trust me, you don't believe in me, like you let me do all this, but right. Or at work or whatever, when you're like, okay, you've got all, you're great, we're great, and all of a sudden you get sideswiped of, no, you can't do that. But it's like, but you were fine with it before. I find
it's very confusing, right?
It's
much
confusing.
like the role that you played being a female but like playing in sports and activities. That's confusing. You knew what you liked, but you couldn't be the female that you were because you weren't acting like a young lady, which was the expectation. That's the piece for you that you need to nurture.
Okay.
What that looks like for you, I don't know. I do know that you're going to find that. And I actually think what you're going to start to see is you're going to find that also in math and in numbers. Sixes are powerful numbers for you. Something will come to you where sixes will be involved, and it'll just be like a message for you just to pay attention at whatever that may be. So sixes is kind of, go ahead.
So you chose my sister's birthday.
Yeah.
And you chose the 6th there. Why?
This has a relationship because we're seeing some of the sixes in kind of just the data that you've presented.
Okay.
So there's some sixes here where we see some consistency. Some of the components of your golden triangle to me is the date when your sister was born and maybe a year or two after that, so 66 to 68. And then I chose 1936 as well, because I feel like part of your golden triangle is to learn a little bit more about your mom and her time period in 1936. Also specific to, she was playful, but she was also meticulous, perfectionist, and particular. So we'd want to know a little bit more about that dynamic if you can. Like, where did she feel like she had to be the perfectionist?
She was a snob. God, I think it just the whole French Catholic upbringing.
Yes.
Very strict.
Yes. And so she's got that dichotomy as well, where she wants to be more playful, but there's that strictness to be perfect. It's just different from yours, but yet the same.
Okay.
You see that?
Yeah.
And so there's that relationship there that you have. So you're probably also, the other year for you might be when you were 6 years old, because usually like around that 6, 7, and 9 year for you was pretty prevalent for some of your memories. And we want to go to the earliest time period. So I would say 66. And then I would go all the way up to 1970 would probably be the other year that I would look at for you, because those sixes are quite prominent for you. And essentially what you want to do is, you've got a very similar mapping of your mom's, in that there was an expectation that she had to fill, but she had this side of her that wanted to come out and play. There was an expectation that you were told to fill, but you're like, hell no. And you did a lot more of the playing from what you remember than what you could, but that dichotomy is still there for you. It still presents itself, and it presents itself in the majority of the language that you've expressed in our entire conversation. Okay, so it's very dominant for you.
Okay.
And so whenever you're looking at this, you really want to look at, okay, what can I be doing where I can get down and gritty? Like, to me, the first things that come to mind for me are like those nature walks, like those wilderness tours of sorts, where you take women out and they get to release themselves. They get to deal with their emotions. They get to be their true selves. Maybe it's just speaking their truth and finally being able to share that with other people. And by being outdoor in nature, by being sweaty, by being gritty, by being authentic and truly themselves, they can do that. And you've given them this space.
Yeah.
That's kind of what comes to me. Yeah, I got goosebumps.
That sounds yummy. That sounds pretty much, that
right.
I just think of my fire pit, my drum,
See? Yes. But let's get down and gritty. Like, let's get down and dirty. There's so much context to that. Let's get down and dirty. Tell me your truths. What is coming up for you? Let's sleep outside under the stars. Let's just really ground ourselves. There's not a lot of I don't know, I want to say like femininity in that. There's grounding in that. There's grace in that, but it's still very authentic. It's still outside. It's still very real. There's still a lot of a freedom attached to that. And you can add in as much of the activity as you want. Yeah, there's something there that you need to birth that will serve others in that way.
Yeah. That sounds good.
Okay. And then I want you looking at these three dates, 66, 36, and 1970, and kind of anything around there. So when you're looking at the news, movies from those time periods that resonate with you, any kind of learnings that you have about, your mom's religion, and those expectations that she had at that time frame, what a woman had to do. What were some of the experiences that a woman had to let go of in order to fit this criteria? Because we already know that both your dad's sister and your mom's sister weren't willing to live their life fully because of those expectations. So there's a lot of that associated with, having to take care of the family.
Yeah.
So just the more aware you can be around some of those time periods, I think you're going to be able to pull some of those learnings into your program. So it could be songs. That feels very powerful for me. It could be certain scripture, where they get to really kind of find who they really are as part of your group. And there's certain scripture that you can pull that they can try and resonate with as their commandment, if you will.
I would have to dig deep because I've haven't looked at scriptures since
Yeah.
I'm like 14.
Yeah, fair. It's just those 3 dates really allow you to take some of the pain points that you didn't really have a choice about.
Okay.
You were born into those. So now we want to learn from them. What are some of the things that your mom couldn't do because of the fact that there was so much expectation put upon her? She wanted to be really playful, and yet there was still this sense of perfectionism and being really meticulous. And then she took on that role. She knows it so well to be able to take care of your father.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Is there anything here that you learned that was kind of an aha moment for you?
It was just kind of cool to watch you put it all together and pull out the wordings and the links and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of like yeah, and just having you reflect back my language that I use. I'm like, oh, should filter myself, although it's good not to filter myself.
That's right.
So yeah, it's pretty cool how you catch those things. I like that.
And then in terms of some of the homework for you, does that make sense at all?
Well, I'm gonna look into it and
Yeah.
work on it and maybe message you and go, oh, what
Yes.
did you think of that? Yeah.
Yes. So sixes for you, nature for you.
Yeah.
Getting down and dirty is like a sentence, like it's the program name itself. It's a component of the program where you go out, into nature. Like there's something about that statement for you that it has to be a part of your program, or
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
a very prolific blog post that gets people into your program, something.
Yeah.
And yeah, just work through the homework, ask questions as they come up. And you're going to notice that now that you've put this out there, and now that you recognize some of the dichotomy that you have, that your mom also had, you're going to start to see more of these messages come to you as to the direction that you're supposed to go into. So feel free to share that as well on your journey.
Cool. Thanks.
Sounds good?
That sounds great.
You're very
really
welcome. Thank you very much. I will ask if there's anybody here, because I couldn't see anybody. If you have any questions, I know, Grant, you're still here. I know Liz had to go, but she wanted me to share the recording. Grant, did you have any questions or any learnings from this?
No, not really.
Yeah. Okay. So give yourself a chance, Grant, to kind of put some of that information out, find a little bit more about your parents' relationships.
I absolutely can't.
Okay.
Everybody older than me in my family's dead.
Fair. Do you have cousins?
No.
Okay.
I have no relatives.
You have no relatives. You're on your own?
A half brother and a half sister.
But are they able to provide you with any information?
No, they don't know my parents.
Okay.
I have no inkling into my foundation, my background. My parents died when I was in my 20s.
So but you know when your parents were born?
I know the year.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And the information around, do you have any siblings?
I just said, no, they're all scattered, but they're not, we were never a family. There was never a family unit anywhere. I didn't live with any of my siblings.
Okay. But you've got their dates of birth?
One or two.
roughly in terms of the age difference between you?
Yeah.
Okay. So those are places that you can start, because even if you take a look at your parents' births, you can take a look at the information in and around there. What was really relevant in those times? What was super relevant in the news around that time period for them? And then with your siblings, you can kind of do the same thing. And then you and I can talk a little bit more about any information that you come up with.
Okay.
Sound okay? So there's a lot more research, obviously, that you have to do. But if they had a church that they went to, if there's any information from neighbors, anything that you can pull together, it's just very helpful for you. Okay.
Yeah.
And then, you know what, you and I will talk, we'll meet up, because this is not a barrier. This is just, we just have to think outside the box and see what type of information that we can come up with as a result. Okay. So this is just one experience, Grant, of many different versions of how we can extract story. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any questions from either of you?
I'm
Okay.
good.
All right. I will end the session. I will send you the recording. I will also post the recording in the Facebook group so that Liz and Grant, you two can grab it. Liz is not on anymore, but so that you guys can grab it. And yeah, feel free to ask any questions along the way. And then Grant, reach out to me and let's see if I can't help you a little bit more. Okay.
There's actually somebody else on the call, unless it's a double of me. There's another Jacqueline. Do you know?
Oh, I saw that. I did let them in, but are they still on?
Yeah, they're muted.
Oh, Jacqueline guest. Oh, I don't know. Okay.
Or maybe that's me from early. I don't know. Do I have a double? I don't know. That's weird. Okay.
That's
Well-
kind of fun. Okay. Well, you guys have yourself a great rest of your night. You people have yourself a great rest of your night and enjoy your weekend.
All right. Thanks a lot, Christy.
Bye.
Bye.